Hi, I'm Christina. So for this problem, we are given two different functions, and we are asked to prove or show that they are inverses of each other, then verify it in our graphing utility and describe the relationship. So to show that two functions are indeed inverses of each other, we'll take f of g of x. And with inverse functions, we will always wind up back where we started. So for example, if I have f of g of x, by performing this calculation, I should wind up back where I started with x. Similarly, we will then do g of f of x. And once again, we expect to wind up back where we start with x. So let's go ahead and do that calculation. I'm going to write my f of x function. But every time I see an x, instead of writing that x, I'm going to insert my g of x function. So what that looks like in this circumstance, again, instead of writing my x, I will copy my g of x function like that. I'll stay organized and separate it in parentheses, and then raise it to the third power. From here, I simplify. If I have the cubed root of x raised to the third power, those operations go ahead and cancel each other out, leaving me with x by itself, which is exactly what I expected and exactly what I needed to show that those functions are indeed inverses. Likewise, I will be able to do the reverse operation. I can take g of f of x. So once again, because of the conditions of inverse functions, I will expect to get x as my answer, but I have to show my work. So I go and I am going to rewrite my g of x function. But every time I get to an x in that function, instead of writing the x, I have to go ahead and plug in my entire f of x function. So at this point, I'll plug in x to the third power. And now I have to simplify. What is the cubed root of x to the third power? Again, those operations in this circumstance cancel out as well, leaving me with x by itself. So I've successfully shown algebraically that these are inverse functions, and now I'm asked to verify that in my graphing utility. So I will go ahead, I can click y equals, and plug in both functions. So I'll plug in x to the third power, and then where it says y sub 2, I can plug in my g of x function. For this one, I'm going to click the math button and scroll down to where I see the cubed root so that I can input that. I click graph. It'll plot the graphs for me. Perfect. The last part is we are asked to describe the relationship that we are seeing between the two functions. Now this is not only the relationship we're seeing with these two functions, but in fact the relationship we will see with all inverse functions. And that is that our functions are reflected over, they're reflected over the line y equals x. So if we imagine on our graph that we were to plug in perhaps a dotted line on the y equals x line, we will see that both of these functions are reflected over that line. They're mirror images over that line. And that's it. That's all three parts of this problem.